for any new faces or people who are catching this replay and haven't come to one of our workshops before, I like to give a little introduction on who we are and what we do at Pandion. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Jordan Stobie. I'm the executive director for Pandion Music Foundation, and Anaí Cruz Batista is here as well. She's the program director for us. And we are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit that provides community and skill building opportunities for music creators in Los Angeles and beyond to cultivate long-lasting lives in music. We run these workshops once a week online so that we can keep our wonderful global audience and musicians who are wanting to build their toolkits and learn skills to help them continue making music in a sometimes challenging industry, building community and making connections with other musicians who are experiencing similar challenges, or just wanting to, like I said, build their toolkits to help them further their careers. Um, and we're so honored to have Kenya here with us today. Really excited to get chatting. I was playing your music this morning and totally jamming out to it while I was reading about your background.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
It's so
awesome.
great. But
Thank
I'll give your bio and then you can fill in anything, and we
you.
can get started. So Kenya McGuire Johnson's the owner and founder of Finding Your Voice Health and Wellness, a boutique holistic wellness company that curates immersive retreats and provides transformative experiences to help women of color thrive and have meaningful, healthy lifestyles. And as an artist, educator, creative entrepreneur, and astrology guidance and certified holistic wellness coach, Kenya is committed to nurturing communities and individuals during their spiritual journeys while navigating the human experience. And I loved that bio. I was like, wow, I want you in my life. It's just you have such a
Yeah.
cool like merging of specialties and your experience in music and wellness. It's just exactly what we're here with Pandion to do is merge the two, and find new ways to bring wellness into a music life and understand that music is wellness as well. So yeah, so welcome, and we're really excited to chat with you today.
I love it. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. And hi, everyone, again. And I think someone else just joined, so welcome. And since it's a nice, intimate group, which I love when it's smaller because we can, I have PowerPoints, I'm gonna share, but I would love for this to be a conversation. I consider myself a facilitator in these spaces. I'm not the teacher and you the student. It's, we're in community. And, I'm going to share some of my perspectives based on my experiences and expertise, but I by no means am the know-all, right? So I think when we talk about wellness, we all have our own journeys in that, our own challenges in that, our own methods in that or lack thereof. And so I think, I'm happy to see that music is paying attention now more to the wellness space. I know I was watching the Grammys and I saw that the winner of the new artist of the year, she made it a point to say, before she got off that stage, like, hey, we're doing this for the industry. Can the industry help us with our health? And I was so excited when I saw that because I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And health and what I am going to dig in a bit in this hour to talk about health isn't just our physical and health isn't just our mental. There's actually 7 dimensions of health that I want you to put your brain around, right? In this hour that we're going to tackle. And really, my goal is for you to just sit back and learn a little bit more about your health on different levels, on a holistic matter, as opposed to just the physical or just the mental. And those are the 2 dimensions that get all the attention. And they're critical, obviously, they're very, very important. But everything is interconnected. And when these other parts of our health are off, they throw off these other, the main physical and mental. And I think we're finally giving more energy toward the mental. But I challenge people and say, what about the spiritual? What about the occupational? What about the environmental health? All of these things, because they're all clicking in. So we'll dig into that. But before that, thank you, Jordan, for reading that my bio and Yeah, it's so funny hearing, you write and because you guys were like 2 sentences. I was like, 2 sentences, 2 or 3 sentences, I don't know. I've been doing stuff for so long, but I appreciate that. Yeah, my background, just real quick to kind of underscore, my father was a musician, so I grew up with music. And so as a kid, I think I say that I started reading by reading liner notes. And I say that because I was reading Minnie Riperton and Stevie Wonder liner notes, and Minnie Riperton died when I was 5. So she was still alive. So I know that I'm like, okay, so I say all that to say that music is like just a part of my breath. It's a part of who I am. And as I went on through school and stuff, I was always, and I think a lot of musicians, because of the way your brain has to think, also can be good in sciences and math and so forth. And so I always struggled with which one do I do? Do I be the artist or do I be the healthcare person? And early in my career, I decided to be the healthcare. I thought music was too fun. It was too easy. Like it felt like, oh, I'm not working hard enough. I need to be something serious. And so I became a physical therapist. That's what I went to college for. I went to Howard University in DC, and I practiced physical therapy for really almost 20 years. I'm really going to age myself in this discussion, so understand that. But music was something that always just sat in the back for me. But now I understand why I was doing the physical therapy, because it prepared me for the wellness side of when I did get back into music, how I needed to think of my health, how I needed to think about tour life, rest, food, nutrition, all of those things. And so it's been really cool now to kind of be in the space where I can merge this a bit more. And then the other side, when you talk about the astrology, so this is how I met Jared, because the the conference I was at, that we met in LA, I actually did a workshop on astrology and using it to help really take care of yourself and figure out your health and wellness. And that's a newer, unique space that I've kind of jumped into now. And we're not going to talk about astrology today. But if astrology is something that you're very curious about, or you follow it and you're wondering how does that add to my health or my well-being, definitely reach out, because it very much does connect. And so yeah, so that's at this point now. I teach at a university here in Chicago, health and wellness and well-being. Not with artists. The students are our future doctors and future nurses and so forth. But in my business, that's why I also have my other business, so that I can really connect to communities like this, as well as connect with, Jordan mentioned, women in the wellness space. So I always like to start to kind of get a temperature of how people feel in terms of their health. And so before I kind of ramble on, I mean, we're small enough, I would make you all talk, but I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. If you, I'm going to have you use your chat, but I want you to think of when you hear the word health and you think about yourself and how you feel about the state of your health right now. And again, whether you think of that in terms of the mental, physical, or another dimension, just of that. I want you to also think of a salad. Okay. So we're using a salad as kind of our prompt. All right. So if you feel that your overall health, there's 3 options I'm going to have you put in the chat. Okay. From 3 options. And it's called a salad check-in. Okay. So you can use this in the future. It's a salad check-in. When you think of a salad, the base of a salad is lettuce, right? That's typically what we're starting the salad with. So if you feel as though right now your health is balanced, it's stable, it's fortifying, it's good, it's solid, you're not feeling kind of out of whack with it, then you're going to say your check-in for your health right now would be lettuce. Okay. Don't put anything yet. You're going to get the 3 options first. So one option is lettuce. The second option is mixed vegetables. So mixed vegetables means sometimes I feel really grounded, like I feel I got it. Then other times I totally am not. I'm like doing whatever. I'm out of whack. I, get kind of frustrated about things. I may even get sick at times, but then I kind of flip flop. So that's mixed veggies. And then dressing is I'm overwhelmed. I'm not quite sure where I should go. One minute I think I'm doing the right thing, and I realize it's not really helping me, and it's just a very overwhelming feeling. So I know we're in an intimate, hopefully safe space. And sometimes it's hard to talk about how we're really feeling, but if you can put in the chat, what would you put? Lettuce, mixed vegetables, or dressing for your health right now? And I'll pull up so I can see the chat. All right, we got a lettuce, awesome. Iceberg, a little icy, mixed veggies, yeah, yeah, mixed veggies. Dressing, yeah, yeah. Sugar. Ah, I love it. Thank you. So we're kind of evenly split here based on these responses. We've got a little bit of lettuce, we've got a little bit of dressing, we've got a little bit of mixed veggies and the dab of sugar with it. And I appreciate that. And it's always hard. And I always commend my people who are willing to say dressing because I do think sometimes, we're afraid we're going to be judged and we should be doing the right thing. And, let me just say mixed veggies. Just easier. And sometimes it's hard to say lettuce because then you don't want to seem like the person that's all right and you got it all together and it's blah blah blah. So I always really appreciate people being willing to share the ends of the spectrums because sometimes we can feel, especially in today's culture, the judgment of things. And I do try to ask this so that we can be honest because the whole talk is to think about, okay, well, how can I create a little more even kill? I think mixed veggies is honestly, yeah, mixed veggies and a little dressing on top. I always say that. I always say, oh, I mixed veggies with a little dab of dressing, or I got a little more lettuce in my mixed, veggies. But as creatives, many of you, and I don't know, maybe we could also put this in the chat. What would you say? What's your creative life? Like, what's your title or what type of creative work do you do? So I get an idea of who we are. If we're straight instrumentalist songwriters, okay, songwriter, awesome. What else do we have? If anybody else wants, okay, performers, songwriters. So when we're, to be in these spaces of being creative, the demands on our lifestyle, the demands on our mental, the demands on, we're still humans and got families and, livelihoods outside of our careers. Health, being perfect with health, I think is just very unrealistic, right? I think it's important for us to sit back and think about what part of our health what that we feel like we can grab onto and really have some wins with WINs. And it may mean then for the year or for the month or for this half of the year, I really just want to focus on my rest. That's what I got right now is my rest because your rest is a big part of your health. The way the body works, the body, yes, it needs the food, it needs the workout, but it needs the rest. That's when the body rejuvenates. That's when the body heals. That's when we sleep. That's when the body is doing a lot of its work. And I don't know if anybody knows, why does the body do most of its work while we're resting? Does anybody know the science of that at all? And you can unmute if you're willing to share. Any guesses? I know you're like, why are we in class? No worries. I'll share. Because when we're conscious and we're moving, the body is trying to keep up with us being conscious and us moving, okay? So if we're ripping over here, doing this over here, digesting stuff, the digestive system is one of the hardest systems of the body. Like it's one of the hardest things it has to do is to digest. And so when we're out and we're being conscious and we're talking here and we're doing here and when we're performing and when we're in our zone, that's why we get these different hormones to help us out, the cortisols, all the things to get us there. When we rest, the body's like, thank God. And so then the liver starts getting to work. The digestive system is like, okay, we don't have to worry about food right now. We can just kind of, do what we need to do. And so that's literally when the body is repairing itself. So if we're not resting, I mean, some of it we hear all the time, oh, we should sleep, oh, we should sleep. It's literally physiologically, that's when the body is trying to get us knocked out so it can actually go to work. It's kind of like Santa Claus. It's like, go to bed, kids, so we can actually get the gifts together. That's really what your body is trying to do. So if you're not giving your body that regularly, it's no matter what you're eating, no matter what exercise you're doing, no matter all of that, it doesn't have an opportunity to renew itself. So things like that. That's why when people say, I just want to focus on my rest, I'm like, yes, that's an excellent health goal. It's an excellent health goal because there's so much that's going to go along with that when you do that. Or you may say, yeah, I'm just going to really focus on my food or my water right now. Those are all wins. And so I'm going to talk about holistic wellness because I believe personally, and I'm biased because I do mostly holistic care. Holistic means preventive. By the time we get to the doctors, the body is actually in a roaring, raring space at that point. And our healthcare system, at least here in the US, is very geared toward, and that's why you hear people say sick care. It's very geared toward once you've already passed the threshold of the body really suffering. And so my goal is to help you, like, let's not get to that threshold. What are the things we can do on a daily? What are the easy things we can do so that we're preventing that? The thing is very little profession. It's growing and depending, in California, a lot of the West Coast, I'm originally from Colorado. So Colorado is pretty progressive as well with a lot of what it does with health. And then you've got some spaces, in East Coast, whatever region you're in, you have more holistic practitioners that you can get access to, and some we can even use at least some type of health savings account or something. Some very few though have insurance based. Most is out of pocket. And so as artists, some of us, depending on the work that we're doing, we may not have health insurance plans that allow us to have all of these regular, types of medical appointments. Some of us do have that, but we get there and we have to be really, really sick, or they're just throwing, medications at us. So I want to be able to kind of have you start thinking about how can I create my own wellness protocol? And that's what my slides are going to be about, is just how do I start to self-assess, think about what parts of my health need a little bit more help, what parts of my health are doing well, and how can I create my protocol so that I know, okay, I'm being an advocate for myself. I'm getting the practitioners, I'm getting the team, because just having that one primary care doctor and then that person tells you, oh, go to this, it can feel very like I don't have control here. And I think when, as creatives, it's funny, we're very creative in our work. Hopefully we're creative in our personal life too, right? Creative how we get in our money, creative how, well, let's be creative on how we also take care of ourselves. Like we don't want to just all of a sudden cut that off and now let go of our autonomy in that. At the same time, being smart and understanding we're not going to know everything, right? And this is why we have practitioners to help us. So I am going to share my screen. Before I share, any initial questions or comments? All right. I saw some back check, but I will admit, you guys, I'm horrible with like looking at chats while I talk. Like I can't do it. My brain just, I don't know, for some reason just doesn't do it. Let me get this in a slideshow for you all so that we can look at it. There we go. So I titled this Unlocking Potential by Creating a Holistic Wellness Plan. It's kind of long, but again, I want you to be thinking about how can I start creating my own plan and start finding those practitioners that have really helped me, as I have, based on what I desire my health to be like. And so some topics that we're going to explore, for the next, I don't know, 20 minutes. I want to have time for a set of questions. And if you have a question while I'm talking or a comment, feel free. I can't see everybody in this view that I'm in right now because I don't have a double monitor, but you can always raise your hand so that Zoom pins you up. Happy to take that while I'm talking. I'll pause here and there. But define what I mean by holistic health and wellness. I think sometimes we confuse that. You see the word whole, sometimes you see holy in that, and it's like, oh, is that something with Jesus? It's like, no, 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 no. Holistic is whole person. I always want to make sure I say that so people don't think we're taking this from a religious space. Holistic is really meaning you as a whole human. the different dimensions of health, the importance of why we should look at our health from a holistic lens, how we create that plan, and any kind of next steps that you might want to take. So the definition that I use, this working definition, is it's an approach to health and well-being that considers you as a whole human and not just as, like I said, your physical or your mental. And really the goal of doing a holistic approach is so that you really obviously can have optimal health and wellness. When you really, this isn't, we're not going to use this as a science class, but when you really start to study the body and you start, for me, I studied the body as a physical therapist. So I studied the anatomy, the physiology, the cardiopulmonary, all of that I had to study. But as I started working with patients, and patients would look at me and roll their eyes like, you want me to get out of bed? And they don't want to have anything to do with me. I realized, oh, I have to like motivate you to do this, which means I need to start getting into the mental. I need to start getting into what's going to motivate you, what's going to make you trust me, what's going to make you be willing to engage in yourself differently despite this pain. And so that's what got me really curious about the mind. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I have my master's degree in counseling. And a lot of that was because I really wanted to better understand people and what makes people move because I saw the interconnectedness. So this is why, and then I started moving into all kinds of things. And once I got back into the music and I saw just how music, the ability for people to just what sound does and what sound mixed with lyric does to how that manifests for people emotionally, I really was like, wow, this is more than entertainment. Like you all as creators are literally contributing to the well-being of people. And you need to understand that the thing that you're doing for well-being isn't just on the entertainment level. It's not just on the emotional. Once you hit somebody emotionally, you are impacting their health because it's all interconnected. So this is why I think artists, I mean, we are such a critical part of how society is going to heal, how we heal ourselves, and so forth. So just understand that. I can see there's something in the chat. Okay, yes, love that. So, oh, okay, good. I want to make sure I can read the chat while I go. But you really are another kind of health worker. And that's why I consider myself, I'm an artist and a healer, and I'm able to do that in both ways. So let me find where did my little mouth go? There we go. So the 7 dimensions of health, there are more. When I teach with students, we kind of dig into, you can really come up with like 10, but I wanted to focus on 7 here. Physical health, your emotional health, your social health are your relationships. And this is another part that I think, I actually just did a lecture with students today to ask them which one do they think they should invest more time in, their financial, their relationships, or their health. And they were all like, money, 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 money. They're like, oh, we got to have the money. Once I have the money, I'll be able to do everything. And I was like, oh, my young students, my young college students, they don't know yet. They don't know yet. But our relationships, our ability to relate and to connect and have community is so huge as we're watching right now. We're watching the spaces where we're feeling the most settled is when we find likeness. And that is such a big part of our health because once I feel connected, now my emotional is going to settle more. Again, now once my emotional is settling more, my hormones, all the reactions of my physical can settle more. So social is really important. Intellectual is that cognitive health, meaning how are we stimulating our minds? And I think as this is one of the great benefits, again, of being an artist, when you're creating, oh my goodness, you're pushing the cognitive levels of the brain to really to be very expansive because we're not just being told something and then reiterate it. You're actually having to create new pathways for the brain to operate. So really important. Spiritual, I am biased in this. I do think that you're spiritual. And when I say spiritual, I don't mean religion. When I'm using spiritual, I'm talking about the essence of you, your value, your why. Why are you even here? What is the soul's point? And so that essence of self becomes such a big part that obviously can be debated on what we mean by that. But when you think about the core value of why you exist, that's kind of what I'm talking about spiritual, and that has to be nurtured. Environmental, oh my goodness. Well, we're watching we're watching how the environment really, on so many levels, impacts our health. Literally, when we're talking about toxins and pollutants, and obviously with the recent fires, you see just how nature and environment impacts, yes, the physical being, but oh my goodness, the social, the emotional, the spiritual, all of like the cognitive, what does all this mean? And that was all from an environmental situation that happened. So it's a big part. And then occupational, and that's our vocation. Those are our careers, and how do we work? And then I think as creatives, looking at how am I working? Am I working smart, meaning efficient, meaning I'm producing but not letting it take over? Or am I working in a capacity that's not sustainable? And so these are the things that we have to look at. And I know I found as a creative, the challenge for me with my occupational health was I love music so much, and I had so much fun with it. And when you're on the stage, because I'm a singer, I was just telling my son this. I have a 22-year-old son and an 18-year-old son, and my 22-year-old just broke his foot last week. He broke his foot, but he broke his foot while he was working out. And so he was like, working out, working out. And he did something funny to his foot. And he's like, Mom, I really didn't feel anything until I don't know. I got home and I'm like, well, because the adrenaline and everything is up and the body is kind of sustaining itself. Well, as a performer, as an artist, we can get on the stage, and that's why it can feel like, oh my gosh, I can keep going. I can, and it's like then you'd have this complete crash because that's not really sustainable. And I felt that a lot as an artist, and learning how to not overdo that the performer in me, and taking rest. Like I can't tour like this, or I can't always be in a creative mode. Like I have to balance this out. So that's how you can kind of consider your occupational. So I've already kind of mentioned this, but just to reiterate it, holistic health is about the interconnection of all those dimensions. And so when you're starting to think of how do I take care of myself, I want you to begin to start thinking more about, okay, I'm looking at my food, I'm looking at my movement, but what's happening with work? How many hours? What's happening with environment? Am I getting out in the sun? Am I getting out in nature? Do I not even really think about that because I have to be on the computer, all of those things. But really the goal is for us to have some level of, and I sometimes steer away from balance, but harmony is the bigger word. I mean, balance, I like to think of balance, 70-40 is technically getting you 100. Okay, 30, was it 30 cent? No, 70-40 is not. That's 110. 70-30 is going to get you to 100. 60-40 is going to get you to 100. So sometimes we got to do a little bit more over here, a little bit less over there to get the balance. Harmony is what I love. And if we, I think you all can appreciate this as musicians. It only takes that one musician in the band to be playing too loud, or not putting enough, or doing something that will totally like throw off the chemistry of the band. And I know me as a singer, when I would perform, it's like I'm constantly, I'm like, I can't compete with the drum. Like, I'm on the mic, but I still got a vocal cord going here. So we've got to, figure out how we get in harmony. It's the same with your health. How do I do these things in a way that's creating harmony? Your health should be like almost like an orchestra. What are the different parts? How am I paying attention to the different parts of myself as I'm thinking about my health? Am I doing too much on my physical and not thinking enough about my spiritual? Am I deciding that spiritual means religion, so I don't do it at all? Is it that environmental feels too overwhelming, and so I just focus on this other space? You really want to be thinking how you're creating harmony for yourself. And then ultimately, holistic health is more preventive care and lifestyle modifications, whereas more of the US system of our healthcare system is, this is why you hear people say sick care, because it's mostly geared toward treating acute care, acute meaning a sudden condition or a more traumatic kind of situation. Physicians are trained to, and they are very well trained to diagnose disease. And the thing that I want you to understand is we don't want to get to disease. We want to get to, because it takes a while, honestly, for the body to get to the point of disease. The body gives a lot of cues all the time, constantly. That little nagging pain here, or that little, tension over here, that's the body constantly saying, hey, just don't forget. Hey, just, do a check in. Hey, that feels a little tight. It's constantly giving us signs so that we can be in that preventive and so that we can change our lifestyle. So, those of you who feel like you're getting like, and it can be scary because we've made health kind of scary. We've made it, a sterile environment going into the doctor's office, or, oh, am I going to have enough money, or what's going to happen? I mean, it's this kind of, it raises your blood pressure. But I don't want you to, I'm hoping that you begin to think of, okay, who can I go to? I don't think this is a major deal, but I'm feeling something. Maybe it's a chiropractor that we need to go to. Maybe it's a naturopath, a lifestyle medicine doctor. Those are different types of practitioners who can look and see and diagnose the body before it gets to the disease space. So pay attention to those little cues. If you don't feel like you're really having any cues, you feel pretty good. Um, you still want to be able to do those physical exams, right? So that they can do blood work and so forth. But I like to do blood work with naturopaths and people because they're looking at the whole, they're going deeper into your blood work than typically what the medical diagnosis is without getting too technical on it. And so some examples of current trends in holistic healthcare, you're seeing more, hearing more about integrative medicine. If you've wondered, what does that mean? That's just basically when you're combining kind of the more traditional, conventional medical treatments, but you're also being suggestive of complementary or alternative therapy. So this might be when the doctor says, hey, I'm going to put you on this medication, but I really would like for you to also take a yoga class, get into therapy, start doing some, mindfulness. That's when they're combining it. And that's, to me, the best of both worlds. Mindfulness and meditation, you're hearing that more and more. This is just all to get you still. Okay, because remember what I said about the rest. And the rest of the physical, the rest of the brain, okay? Because the brain right now, we're almost training the brain to do the opposite of what the brain is trying to control for. So, for example, the brain actually, the way human conditions are and human beings exist, we're actually built to be so that we can be a little bit more focused and so we can attend to whatever a task. But what has happened is we have so many distractions and intrusions and beeps and lines and cues. The brain, whatever you give it, it takes on. It does it. So if you start giving it a lot of distraction, it starts thinking, oh, you want me to start learning how to go into distraction. Okay, well, I'll start paying attention to distraction. And this is why it's so hard when we're like, oh, I need to unplug. I don't want to look at my text. I don't want to. And it can be so hard to do that when they're still there because we've actually trained the brain in a very subconscious way to still latch on. This is why I say, like, when you want to unplug, like, you literally have to put the phone in another room. Like, you have to remove it entirely so that the brain doesn't get the cue. Because right now, we've trained the brain. Phone means look. Phone doesn't mean talk and call a cousin. Phone means look. And so the brain has been trained to do that. So mindfulness, meditation starts to help the brain be more able to release chatter. So when we have chatter when we're meditation, which is totally normal to have the chatter, that's what your brain's supposed to do. The goal is, how do I learn how to release it? That's really what it's attempting to do. Nutritional therapy is where you have those nutritionists who really look at food as medicine and not medicines as medicine. This is its own workshop in itself because nutrition is a lot of layers. But looking at our food as medicine as opposed to always thinking we have to go get medicine. Our body knows plants. Our body knows fruits. Our body knows animal proteins. Our body knows plant proteins. When we start getting, anytime you're grabbing food with labels, none of the things I just said, a plant, an animal, a fruit, they don't come with labels, right? You go to the store, there's no label. You just pick it up and you go. If you see a label with a fruit, it's not a fruit. Something's off, okay? Because they don't need extra ingredients. It's food. When we're digesting a lot of preservatives, when we're digesting food that has labels, the body doesn't know those things. This is why disease starts to happen. Because once the body picks up a plant a fruit, an animal, it knows what to do because it's a part of the ecosystem. So it knows what it needs to do to keep you healthy. But when we start adding preservatives, the body has to store that because it doesn't really know how to function with it. And this is why it becomes such a problem with our food. And that's why I always tell people, your food really has to be your medicine to heal. Holistic fitness, instead of us just thinking about going to the trainer, really focus on what are those exercises or those movements or those programs that allow us to really integrate the physical with the mental, with the emotional. Okay. In other words, this is why yoga becomes such a popular space for holistic spaces, because you can't just go in yoga and just start doing poses. Like you have to really, your brain has to be in a certain space, your mentality, your emotion, everything is trying to work together to hold that pose, to get into that position. Same thing, even with your Pilates, or even when you're doing more functional things like dance, just going dancing. All of those things are coming together. It's not just about you moving. You got to listen to the music, you got to hear it, you got to be on rhythm. Everything is coming together. So think about your fitness beyond just going to the gym, especially those who are in climate where you can get outside, because then you start adding the environment and then you're really looking at that environmental health as well. All right. My mouse keeps like disappearing on me. So these are some, if those of you who have this is like piqued your interest and you're like, I think I want to maybe take a more holistic approach to my health, these are probably the more popular, accessible. You should be able to get online and literally kind of Google and find people near your area who have these titles. And each of these titles typically are going to look at you as a whole person. They're not going to just look at your physical, they're going to look at your lifestyle, your stress level, your work, all of those things. So, holistic health practitioner sounds pretty general. Usually people have a little bit more detail with them, but anytime if you just were to Google that, that should be leading you toward a person who's going to be not just trying to give you a medication, but that's really going to look at how all of these dimensions work together. A naturopathic doctor, really what a naturopath is doing is that they're really looking at, okay, what is your lifestyle? What is your belief system? What are your values? What is your spiritual life? Like they really look at the total and then how is all of that informing your physical health? And use a lot of herbs and plants and again, really being more nature focused, nature in its whole way. So I love naturopathic MDs. I are, doctors. I have a naturopath that I see has been very helpful for me to really look a little bit deeper into my health and my blood work and all of those. I can't say enough finding a therapist. And I think if you can find a mind body therapist or a coach, somatic, if you see something, anything that says somatic therapist, the reason why I particularly like somatic therapists, especially nowadays, is somatic means body. That's just what that term means. A lot of us, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen for just a moment because I do want to, I was asked to come in this space. This month is Black History Month. And I know a lot's going on regarding even using terms. It's just a lot right now, but this is really serious. I think as people of color who have a history of trauma and things put upon us that were not of our choice, there is a terminology called epigenetics. Is anybody familiar with that term, epigenetics? Okay. I see Jordan nodding her head. Jordan, do you mind sharing just what your thoughts on what that term means?
Yeah, is it related to like intergenerational trauma as well? Like trauma being passed down or like through the generations, that having the health of like your ancestors impacting the health of you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's, oh, go ahead, Christina. You want to share? Yeah.
I say this because I have an adopted daughter and we worked with someone because when you adopt a child, they have inherited trauma. And so, yes, I'm familiar with the term. I think it's a really unexplored area. That's all I'm going to say.
I appreciate that. It is very unexplored and it's very relevant. More scientists are trying to look at this because basically to what Christina and Jordan's saying, this trauma is thought to therefore be a part of our DNA. The other side of this, though, doesn't equal, oh, well, you're doomed. That's no, what they're trying to, people who are doing epigenetics and really doing the study, they're showing that if you start shifting your lifestyle, you can also you can shift the genetics of this. And this is why generational patterns become so huge. It's more about generational wealth and money. It's literally, how are we behaving? How are we living? So that, like, for instance, my mom, I'm just going to disclose, and I don't mind sharing my age. I'm 52, so I don't mind sharing that. So my mom is 85. And so when I was a little girl, I thought my mom, because she used to say, oh, I had to pick cotton. So she was raised in Georgia. So when she would say pick cotton, I thought she was a slave. I was like, oh, my mom's a slave. My mom was a slave, right? So here I was thinking my mom was a slave. And that's how I was like a teenager. She's like, I wasn't a slave. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we lived on a farm. Your grandfather had cotton. So as a kid, we used to pick the cotton so that he could sell it. And I was like, oh my goodness. But my mom was picking the cotton, right? And had a lot of other things. So now my generation, no, I'm not doing the same kind of labor, but there are some mental things that I absolutely see that I have passed on to my kids. This is not just behavior watching. Some of this is to what Christina is saying. If there's a certain level of trauma, that the environment is doing that, but that can also, they're finding through epigenetics that in fact, genetically, that can be an issue. But that can be shifted. So I just bring that up because therefore, this is where somatic therapists become really wonderful, because they start getting into the physicality of you releasing, not just talking, not just talk therapy, because talk therapy is important and it has a place in our lives, but there's also a physicality that we have to release, energy wise. I took a group of women, because I do a lot with Black women in terms of retreats, and I took a group of them in a dance class. And the dance, though, was a sensuality dance class, and everybody's like rolling their eyes, like, oh my God, do we have to? I'm like, no, because there's a lot that sensuality releases us up as women. And we're not taught this. We're not taught about how all of this connects to our mental health and our physical. And it was through that somatic release, women were crying, women were laughing, women were, sister girl, hug me, hold my hand. It just was a whole other interconnectedness that happened by just doing dance in a certain kind of way. And so I really encourage, if you, particularly those of us who come from Indigenous and, people of color, because a lot of that trauma we're not even aware of. It's not in the conscious, but it's in our bodies. And so I'm reading here, done Googling this term. Yes, Google the term, please. It's that generational trauma works in a lot of ways. It works in a lot of ways. And so somatic therapy is one that I'm pushing more and more people. There's not a lot of somatic therapists out here, but again, they do exist, and they do a variety in addition to talk therapy to help you process the anger that's built up in us, to release that, and whatever emotion. It can be not just anger, it can be a lot of others. All right, we've only got about 10 minutes or so left. I'm going to just kind of wrap up with like one more slide, maybe two more slides. And then I'd love to kind of answer some questions, see kind of, where you all are at.
Ken has a question, Kenya.
Oh, yes,
Do you want to
kid, yes.
Yeah, look at that
Yeah.
real quick. Let me, Ken, I think you can unmute yourself, I believe.
Sorry, I could have waited till after the slide, Kenya. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, it's just funny. You kind of hit home with something. Besides being a songwriter, I'm in the holistic field. I'm a chiropractor. So I kind of see all this stuff a lot. And I'm struggling on the creative side with, let's see how to say it. It's not getting too discouraged because the music business is so difficult. And there are times, I mean, I try visualization, I try surrender, I try a lot of different things. But there are times I just say to my wife, why do I keep doing this? It's so difficult to get placements and things, but yet I love it. I felt like I was born to write. So
Mm.
I don't sing in between adjustments or anything, but I write on the side anyway. So if you have anything about how not to give up and
Oh,
how to stay persistent, and I mean I'm a spiritual person, but sometimes I just feel like it's just impossible, this business. But I love this community. It's great. Anyway, so
oh, I love that. I love that you asked that, Ken. And I can't imagine that 90% or more of us feel the same way. And what is the thing that keeps us motivated? What is the thing that keeps us going? And what are the things we can do with these different dimensions of our health to contribute to it? This is where, and I am, let me say this real quick, and then I want to address this because I have an idea for you, but it may seem a bit esoteric, okay, if you don't mind, because I think we have to get in those zones.
it's
I want
fabulous.
you all just real quickly, and particularly Ken, given your question, when you look at these different 7 dimensions of health, if you had to rank them 1 to 7, most nurtured, meaning the one you nurtured the most in your life, and then down to what you probably least nurture. I just take a moment, and I don't want to take up too much time because we don't have much time left, but think about maybe what's the top 3 that you do, and then maybe the bottom 3 or the top 1 and the bottom 1. Look at that.
When you say nurture, you mean that I treasure the most? Is that what you mean?
No, that you actually invest and you develop and you spend time with it.
Oh, I would say, well, spiritual, some occupational, and I guess intellectual. Those
Okay.
are
Okay.
3. Yeah.
And then which one is the least when you look at this?
Well, social, I mean, I have a lot of friends and family, so I don't know if you mean, am I not social enough? When you say, I mean, I should, I shouldn't say that. I should put social up there because I have a lot of good friends and family.
Okay.
So
So that's
that's
not
up.
a least one. That's
No,
still a
that's
top.
yeah, the least would probably be environmental, maybe
Okay.
physical. Yeah, those.
Okay. Okay. So, and I thank you, Ken, for sharing yours. And I want everybody to kind of think of what theirs are. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for just a moment. I hope everybody was able to see. I bring this up because remember, because everything is connecting. Everything is connecting. So typically we have something that we're not investing as much time in. And so what I would definitely first say is get curious about, why don't I spend as much time with that? Because there's something probably behind that. So for instance, if you're saying physical, Ken, for you, and we were to really unpack that a little bit more, because I would say that's the one that you would want to have some goals toward, okay, is to start nurturing that physical. So in thinking though about what you're talking about, and like, how do those connect then, right? It's like, oh, if I go exercise, are they gonna, am I gonna have songs? So maybe. But the bigger thing is this: why are we artists? Why are we doing this work? Are we doing, and especially Ken, for you as a chiropractor, do you want songwriting to replace chiropractor financially, or
Yes, yes.
okay?
That I've been doing chiropractic since the mid 1980s, and I've been writing since the mid 1980s. And the amount of money I made in chiropractic versus money, music is like different.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
getting kind of in my middle age, and I just kind of want to stop adjusting and just collect royalty checks. That would be my
yeah,
dream.
yeah, yeah. And I think, there's obviously a lot of layers as to, why, especially if you're you're here in the States, I assume.
Yes, in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because what's happening is here in the States, and how we manage the music industry and how we consume and how we financially do, there's so much more that, I hate to say these terms, but capitalism in these spaces that don't really have anything to do with your art,
Mhm.
and don't have anything to do with how people may approach or digest or consume your art. There's all these kind of interesting, weird systems and gateways to people even accessing your art. And that's a
Mhm.
lot of why we're not getting through, right? Or it's not getting through. It's not you as an artist. It's not your songs not being meaningful. It's these systems that we're having to negotiate. And so I do say, and this is where I get in the esoteric and how I sometimes work with people, two things that I do to help people. This is why I use the astrology, because be patient with me for those of you who are like, no astrology. Astrology is looking at why did you come here? And how is your soul trying to navigate this existence? And one of the really beautiful things that especially since you say you invest a lot in the spiritual, so I think this might be a good tool to investigate, because literally astrology, I can look at a chart and I'm not, without giving a whole bunch of directions here, there's certain parts of the charts that talk about what the soul wants to experience here and what the soul is already very comfortable with and what it's trying to expand from. And so that science mind, you've already kind of said it. Like I've done it for so many, like there's a comfort zone there. But the songwriting is pushing this other creative part of yourself to be seen. It may look like it's just in the songwriting, but I wonder if there's some other creative aspects of you that also want to come to the surface. And maybe it's not just locked in, I'm going to songwrite. It may have so many other extensions from that creative space. So this is why I say, like, working with, oh no, go ahead. What were you going to say, Ken?
No, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, I was going to say, this is what's good about working with coaches, because we have blind spots. We know, like, okay, this is what I know I'm supposed to do. This is how I feel. But when you start working with coaches and other people who are looking at you as a whole and your relationships and all the things, that's when they can put flashlights. But Ken, have you ever considered this? And you got some gifts over here that maybe could actually open up some doors where the songwriting can be more for joy and just from your heart, but you've got these other gifts that maybe more financially support you. Sure. There's a lot of legs. Okay, Ken, talk to me.
No, that's wonderful. I mean, I believe in the soul and we're here and we came for a reason. I believe in all that stuff. And I think that's such a great thing. And this is so spiritual and inspirational. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Can I ask you when your birthday is? You got me curious now. I'm sorry.
I'm a Libra, October 14th.
Oh, you're my Libra. You're a natural artist. Libras are my natural art. So if you're a Libra, I don't know if anybody else is a Libra in here. See, yep. Libras are our natural, because Libras create beauty. They are the beauty creators. They really are. And they create it from a space of their air energy, and air is communication. So Libras typically use writing in song or music or in those energies. So we'll have to connect, because you're more than a Libra. I was just saying, let me let everybody know, everybody has every sign in them. So if you're saying, I don't really like some, everybody has, you got Gemini, you got Scorpio, you got everything. So thank you, Ken, for that question. All right, we're getting to our hour, and I wanted to be able to answer any questions or take in any comments or anything anybody would like to share.
Kenya, I just wanted to maybe offer, like, if anyone here is interested in the astrology side, or just can you explain a little bit more about what you do as like a coach and your astrology, and in case anyone's curious and wants to reach out to you about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So really briefly and quickly, I do what's called astrology guidance sessions. So it's basically mixing astrology with coaching. So as opposed to just doing a typical reading, which a lot of astrologers will simply kind of give you a reading, tell you, oh, you've got these planets, blah, blah, blah. I don't do that. We sit the first 20 minutes, and how Ken and I were just having that conversation. We have a conversation. I ask questions just about your life, different parts of the life. And then whatever you tell me, I can show it to you in the chart. And that's why it really becomes impactful. Us having this conversation, Ken just gave that whole story. I can go in now. I would probably be able to see in his chart where the chiropractor comes in and so forth. And so from there, I just explain a little bit more about, okay, these might be more of the things that are a little bit more challenging. And so these are the areas that you might want to consider. And this is where my coaching comes in. How can we approach these challenges? How can we look at this? It can go really deep. It depends. I really let each client, some clients are very specific and say, hey, I'm having a really difficulty in my relationships. So then we spend the time more so looking at a part of the chart that rules that. Then some people come in and say, you know, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. Then I know there's a part of the chart that looks at that. So I kind of gear it toward whatever. And then after that session, because you'll see once you get into it, I think it's 100% of the time, people are like, whoa, I need another session, you know. So now whether or not they do that, it's up to them. But I do think that it's a great way to get your mind thinking and affirming yourself. Really, that's what the astrology, and really a good coach is not telling you what to do. A good coach is helping you, is just putting a flashlight so that you start seeing, oh, that's right, I have remembering myself. And then the coach kind of giving you some strategies and tips as you are in the process of remembering yourself. That's my goal of using astrology. So, yeah. I also, for the generational pattern thing, I just did an ancestral healing retreat that was super
Wow.
beautiful. It was super powerful. And that is where we sat down and we talked about who are ancestors, why they exist, and how you can be in community and relationship with your ancestors and how that goes towards your healing. So,
Amazing.
Jared. Oh, my Jared. It's good seeing
Hey,
you.
good to
Hey.
see you. Yeah, I mean, like just speaking back on like what you said, that like how we met, I was one of those persons where I was just like, wait, we finna talk about what? Because I was like really skeptical about it, but it makes sense. And I'm like drawing a little bit more to it, because like what you mentioned earlier is like our thought process and like how we eat and like what do we think and things like of that nature. And I think that's a very important thing. And you were talking about the signs of our body telling us something like, hey, if this is hurting, you might want to check that out. Or hey, if you feel like this, you might want to check that out. I think we ignore that, especially men, whoever the men are in here. I'm pretty sure yeah. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of like calling that out and making it aware, I think is for sure like the first and the best step. So thank you for refreshing and putting that back into like our memory of, for our health.
I love that. Thank you, Jared. And to your point with men, you know, and not to make this a genderized thing, but I think this is important, how society does genderize us in the sense of men having the space to experience all of their emotions and experience all of their feelings is very pushed to this. And a lot of times we're only giving space for men to connect to their anger or to their kind of, I got to go get into do mode, like this I got to go fix this. So I'm mad enough to fix it, or I'm disappointed enough to fix it. But we don't go through all, you know, there's a lot of other emotions that we have. And I think this is why men sometimes will ignore certain parts of that the body is cueing in, whereas our feminine and men, when we really get into energy, we all have feminine and masculine energy. And so when men are able to tap a bit more into whatever the feminine energy is, which means tune in, tune in. That's what feminine means. Doesn't mean girl, it means tune in. Whereas, you know, that's what we want to start using, like all of us. Where is that tune in button? And then I do think in our society, women have more spaces to, let me go call my girlfriend. Let me go, you know, I can connect with her. I can go cry. I can go have these experiences with my friends, my girlfriends, and they're not going to be, whereas I think if a male, I do think we have a society where if that same thing was going to happen, it may not be as safe and it may not be as comfortable. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was really fun, Jordan.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
so,
Thank you everyone
yeah.
for staying on for an extra few minutes too. I feel like this conversation could have gone so much longer with like Jared, you were saying like we could have a whole week of like sessions on these specific, I mean, could go on forever.
Yeah,
We'd love to have you back on and to like delve into specific aspects of what you do. Also, I think you have like you yourself just have such a holistic understanding of things and different areas of music and wellness. And I think there's so much that we could dive into that we don't have time for in 1 hour. So
yeah, no
yeah,
worries. And I'll send you all, I think you said that you have an area where they can see the resources. This
yeah,
PowerPoint, there's some other information in it, so I'll send it to you so you guys can kind of dig into that a little bit more.
great. Yeah, we can post on
and
our socials as well about it, and for anyone who wants to follow up with more information. And then yeah, please check out Kenya's resources on her website if you're interested. I'm gonna do that after this. I'm like, I want to do
Yes,
this.
I love to do the readings. We have so much fun. And that place where the summit that I met Jared, I've had like a good 10 people from the from the summit reach out in some kind of way, some to do readings. I have one person, she's working with me now regularly. So I'm happy to do that. It's fun for me, and it's part of and this is why I said this to you, Ken. I'm a songwriter as well, and I'm not actively writing songs, but creating I've realized it's creating that I love. Like it's creating. So doing the astrology, doing these things, I have to create when I'm in this. And so that feels really good too. But I do miss, you've inspired me, Ken. I'm like, I really should write a song tonight. No, I'm just playing. But I haven't been writing my music like I need to. So, yeah. All
So
right.
much inspiration we can all take from each other's experiences too. I think that's what, like, even though, you could say esoteric or woo-woo-y or whatever, but it's like if it inspires, that's all that matters. Like whether there's a scientific basis to it or not, it's like I think the thing that matters the most for us as creatives is just that, like, we can find inspiration from each other and what we can share, and that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Great. Well,
thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And yeah, come join us next week for our workshop. I think NIE posted a link there. We've got Rashad Richardson who's leading, and he's great, knows a lot about music supervision. So if any of you, I know Ken, you're interested in that, and a lot of us are. So join us next week, and Kenya would love to see you again. So thank you
Yes,
for
yes.
everything.
You guys take care. Be in touch, please.
Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much, Kenya.
you.
It was wonderful.
You're welcome.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
everyone. See ya.
Night.
Bye.